I regained consciousness from dehydration-induced delirium in the scorching heat, awakened by excruciating pain. In my hazy state, I witnessed my husband, along with our son and his mistress, dismembering my body and consuming my flesh and blood. Overwhelmed with resentment, a flash of light transported me back to the day my husband demanded a divorce. Sybil is pregnant. I'm warning you, stop clinging to our failed marriage. Nathan Brown roared at me. His mistress, Sybil Wilson, hid behind him offering sweets and toys to our son. As I felt the cool breeze, the torment from my past life gradually faded. I had been reborn. Facing Nathan's contorted expression, I suppressed my rising hatred and readily agreed to the divorce. He hesitated, eyeing me suspiciously. Really? You're not playing some trick, are you? I glanced at the calendar on my phone. Only 7 days remained before the heatwave apocalypse. Time was running out. We either go to the court now, or I'm walking away. Your choice, Nathan, our son urged impatiently. Dad, when are you divorcing this awful woman? I want to go to the amusement park with Ms. Sybil. Sybil cast a coy glance upon hearing this. Nathan shuddered with excitement, hastily ushering me into the car to head to the court. Throughout the journey, Nathan grinned like a fool, while our son, nestled in Sybil's arms, refused to even look at me. As I drove, I fought the urge to crash the car off the overpass with all 3 of them inside. During the property division, I only took my savings card with £200,000. Nathan couldn't help but boast. See how good I've been to you, letting you live off me all these years. I barely restrained myself from slapping him. Since you're being so reasonable about the divorce, I'll give you an extra £100,000, he said. I gladly accepted Nathan's transfer of £100,000. No point in letting pride get in the way of money. 2 days ago, he had won a £50 million lottery jackpot, and wanted to settle down with his mistress before claiming the prize. Hence his desperate attempts to divorce me. In my previous life, I was oblivious to this. Back then, I had desperately tried to salvage our marriage and keep our son. It wasn't until I saw Sybil's Instagram post of their intimate photo that I realized the truth. In the picture, Nathan beamed with joy, a stark contrast to his usual irritated demeanor towards me. Recalling how the family's attitude towards me changed after Sybil returned from abroad, my husband accused me of lacking self-respect. Our son despised me, calling me a bad mom. In my past life, I had stormed to confront them, slapping Sybil only to be locked in the basement by their collusion. This time, I vowed to make their deaths 1,000 times more agonizing than mine. As we left the court, I watched them happily embracing each other. Laugh while you can, I thought. Soon, you won't be able to smile at all. After returning home, I immediately began planning how to purchase supplies to protect myself. Halfway through my planning, Nathan came back with our son. Seeing the look of satisfaction on his face, I guessed he had already exchanged and received the £50 million. I couldn't be bothered to deal with them, so I continued writing and drawing on my tablet. However, our son ran to my side and shouted, "I want to go on holiday abroad with Dad. Hurry up and pack our things. I'm not your nanny." "Go find someone else to do it," I replied. Our son spitefully threw a toy at me. "You're my mom, so you have to be my slave. If not, I'll get Dad to hit you." The corner of the toy scratched my leg. Looking at our self-righteous son, I silently cursed myself for giving birth to such a child. Glancing at my ex-husband, I thought, no wonder he's Nathan Brown's son, just as selfish. Before having a child, I was an executive at a listed company. But after our son was born, he couldn't be left alone, and would cry hysterically if I wasn't by his side. We went through several nannies. For the sake of his upbringing, I gave up my career and became a housewife for 10 years. But in my previous life, when the heat wave came, they gorged themselves on the daily supplies I had stockpiled. Even during the heat wave apocalypse, they lived quite comfortably. Meanwhile, I was dying in the basement. I begged our son to give me a chance to live. But to please Sybil, he even blocked the basement's ventilation, leaving me to pass out. I didn't die immediately. Instead, I watched with my own eyes as they took up a cleaver and stabbed it into my body. In my final moments, I heard the whole family greedily shouting, "Quick, get a basin. We can drink the blood too. She's over 15 stone, enough for us to drink for a while." Our son pounced, being the first to bite into my blood vessels. A step back leads to a broader horizon, a moment of patience brings peace. I slapped my son across the face, causing his cheek to swell. He lunged at me, trying to bite, while shouting for me to go back to the countryside. I grabbed him with one hand and spanked him. I glanced at Nathan, who was watching the show, and said calmly, "Are you sure you don't want to handle the child? If you dare provoke me, I'll disappear immediately. And you won't be able to get the divorce papers." Only then did he come over to smooth things over. "The child is yours. What's wrong with packing some clothes for him? Can a child be born by just one person?" I retorted. Nathan couldn't argue with me. He sheepishly packed a few t-shirts and shorts, forcibly dragging our son, who was making faces at me, out the door. Before leaving, he pretended to be sincere and asked me to stay for a while. I didn't agree. The city flats will soon face water and power cuts after the apocalypse. Not only will they be useless, but they'll also be vulnerable to attacks from neighbors. In this life, let this place become the burial ground for the Brown family. As soon as Nathan left with our son, I hurriedly packed my things and rummaged through the cellar. I had a habit of stockpiling, and the cellar was filled with enough food to last about 3 months. This time, I was determined to take it all with me. 20 cases of bottled water? In a heatwave apocalypse, water would be the scarcest resource. I must take it all. 10 bags of rice, 10 bags of flour, 5 tubs of oil. It had been quite a struggle to get all this into the cellar initially. I quickly called any van to have it all moved. The various vegetable planters on the balcony, which I had painstakingly cultivated. How could I leave them to benefit these wretched people? Light summer clothes and duvets. Who would wear clothes or use blankets in such heat? I packed them up and tossed them into the donation box downstairs. I left this family only a pile of long-sleeved winter clothes and several thick quilts. Let them truly experience what extreme heat feels like. I took a hammer from the toolbox and gave the air conditioner a few hard whacks. The already rickety unit emitted a few buzzing sounds. I hope the 3 of them have strong constitutions and can thrive wearing long sleeves in 50-degree heat without food or water. As I was emptying the house, I caught sight of a familiar cleaver. My son loved meat, and I used to use it for chopping bones. Little did I know that in my previous life, it would become the tool they used to dismember me and drink my blood. After a moment's contemplation, I took it out of the cupboard and placed it on the kitchen counter. Finally, I surveyed the house one last time. It looked unchanged, but was now completely devoid of supplies. I also ordered a few surveillance cameras and had them installed in hidden locations. By the time I finished, it was already past 2 in the afternoon. Despite the scorching heat outside, I hurriedly loaded everything into the car and drove back to my hometown. I'm all alone now. My parents passed away when I was in high school, leaving me only a plot of land. The kind-hearted villagers pooled their resources. 100 pounds from one family, 300 from another, 500 from yet another, to support me through university. Before giving birth, I was a workaholic. Against Nathan's wishes, I went back to my hometown and built this 2-story villa. On the day the house was completed, I went door to door, bowing in gratitude, repaying debts, and giving gifts. When we were laying the foundation, most of the villagers came to help. We used the best building materials and even installed 8 solar panels. To protect against potential wild animals from the mountains, we set up an electric fence around the house in addition to the walls. Even though it was 35 degrees outside, I couldn't help but smile as I stood in my courtyard. I'm grateful for my stubbornness back then. Now, this well-equipped villa nestled between the mountains and the river is my greatest asset in facing this heat apocalypse and saving the villagers. Realizing I had 2 weeks before the end of the world, I began checking the villa's hardware. I contacted workers to install a water purification system, and bought several large home batteries and power banks. Even if the solar panels fail, we'll be able to generate our own electricity. We also need sufficient cooling sources. Although the house is equipped with a full set of fresh air conditioners, I wasn't taking any chances. I bought 7 or 8 standing fans, along with good humidifiers, to ensure we could enjoy cool air even after the apocalypse. The freezers at home weren't enough either. I bought out an entire row of commercial freezers from the shelf and selected 10 generators. Thankfully, my house is big enough that all this extra equipment doesn't make it feel cramped. Looking at the layout of the house, I also ordered 5 ultra-large water tanks for home fish ponds, a row of home breeding cages, and a set of indoor planting tools. I waited for the workers to deliver everything the next day. After all these purchases, my funds were nearly depleted. Without hesitation, I opened my phone and frantically downloaded loan apps, borrowing nearly £1 million. By the time the water purification system was installed, night had fallen. I hurriedly ate a few bites and went to bed. There was still so much to arrange tomorrow. After checking the items I've prepared so far, I realized it's about time to start gathering everyday essentials. Given my previous life experience of living in a basement for an extended period, I'm unsure how long this impending heatwave apocalypse might last. So, I'm focusing on quantity over quality when shopping, with an eye for the best value for money. At the local farmers market, I bought dozens of freshly slaughtered cows, sheep, pigs, and chickens, asking the vendors to cut and sort the meat for me. I also purchased a batch of easy-to-raise rabbits and about 20 hens, planning to keep them in the small enclosure in my yard as a fresh meat reserve. I stocked up on heat-resistant vegetable seeds and fertilizer, storing them in bags in the yard. With time to spare, I rushed to the wholesale supermarket. I started with 400 bags each of rice and flour, then 500 containers of bottled water. Various seasonings and spices were thrown into the trolley by the box. I bought plenty of ready meals too, just in case we can't cook during the crisis. These should keep us full, realizing there's still a week before the apocalypse. I also bought several dozen boxes of snacks, drinks, and fruits. Then I added various toiletries, kitchenware, and tableware. When I went to check out, the shop owner was astonished. I had to tell him these were for a charity donation. Only then did he cheerfully arrange for a van to deliver my supplies back to the village. Leaving the supermarket, I went to the local fish farm and bought 10 of each of 5 easy-to-raise fish species, along with some fish fried to stock my own pond. Passing by a clothing store, I bought all the lightweight, quick-drying clothes they had, as well as some winter wear just in case. Finally, I dashed into a pharmacy and bought dozens of boxes of every type of medicine. I especially cleared out their stock of remedies for heat stroke, dehydration, and insect bites, grabbing every brand available. I was driving a 7-seater car and had to make 3 trips to get all my purchases home. Once everything was done, I opened my phone to check on the Browns. As soon as I opened Instagram, I saw Nathan's face plastered all over it. It wasn't hard to see they were having a great time abroad, staying in luxury hotels costing thousands per night, eating freshly caught seafood. Even our son had received a full set of electronic games from Sybil. Looking at the 3 of them living it up, I couldn't help but smile. Enjoy it while you can, make the most of your last extravagant celebration in this life. Early the next morning, I opened the door, planning to visit each household in the village to confirm the number of people and their general supply situation. I wanted to make preparations for everyone in advance, as this time I intended to help my neighbors survive the apocalypse together. There were 53 households in the village, all of whom had been very kind to me in the past. I visited each family, advising them to stock up on supplies, fill their water tanks, and store potatoes, sweet potatoes, and other long-lasting crops in their cellars. Upon returning home, I quickly ordered 2 drones to facilitate the delivery of supplies later. After some consideration, I also ordered a few stun batons. Unfortunately, I ran out of money. Otherwise, I would have purchased more protective measures. Over the next few days, I continuously organized supplies and found time to buy myself a 1 terabyte iPad. I categorized and downloaded novels, TV series, variety shows, and anime for entertainment after the apocalypse. As the time of the extreme heat from my previous life approached, there was no sign of change in the weather. I even began to doubt myself. Could it be that with my rebirth, the heat wave would no longer occur? Although I didn't want to witness the apocalypse again, the thought of Nathan and his family surviving with their enormous wealth filled me with inexplicable anger. But the very next day, the weather changed dramatically, and my heart sank. The apocalypse had arrived. It had rained just yesterday, but the temperature suddenly rose sharply. I checked my phone. At 11 o'clock, it was 38 degrees Celsius, at 11:15, 40 degrees Celsius, by noon, 45 degrees Celsius. Red high temperature warnings kept coming through the weather app. And my heart grew heavier. It had indeed arrived. It was the same in my previous life, a rapid temperature rise after rain, soaring to 55 degrees Celsius by the next afternoon and remaining there. Many people died from heat stroke and dehydration, caught unprepared. I commented on a heatwave post, saying this year's temperature was abnormal, and suggesting people stock up on supplies just in case. However, I was met with mockery and sarcasm. Have you gone mad from reading too many novels? Do you really think there's going to be an apocalypse? Another doomsday theory, can't you hope for something good? What's the point of stocking up in this heat? Everything will spoil. Then my comment was deleted by the platform, citing spreading rumors and maliciously causing panic as the reason. Before I could try again, my account was banned. I put away my phone. Good advice is hard to hear, I thought. I could only hope my brief comment would raise awareness for some people. Crystal, are you home? I heard you're back from the city. I need a favor, a voice called from outside. I opened the door to find Mr. Thornton, the village head. It was only a 15-minute walk from the village committee office to my house. But he was already drenched in sweat, his cheeks flushed red. Several people were working in the fields today, fertilizing the crops. With this heat, they've got heat stroke. I see you have a car, could you possibly? I nodded, agreeing to drive the villagers. It was the least I could do. On the way, I kept warning them about the impending crisis. The simple villagers were bewildered by my words. But in their confusion, they ended up loading a car full of food and water to take home. Just as I got home, I received an alert from my surveillance app. I checked my phone, and sure enough, Nathan had returned from his overseas trip with his son and Sybil. The three of them turned on the air conditioning as soon as they entered their house, complaining about the weather. The son cried for ice cream, but Nathan just sprawled on the sofa, motionless. It was Sybil who finally quieted the boys' sobs by ordering takeaway on her phone. Due to the extreme heat, there were few delivery drivers available. It took a full 3 hours for the food to arrive. Not long after eating, Nathan took Sybil to the bedroom for some intimate time. Little did they know that when they woke up, they would face a drastically changed world. Meanwhile, outside, the supermarkets and markets were crowded with people. Those with a sense of crisis were stockpiling water and food, as no one knew how long the situation would last. The scorching heat arrived as expected, just like in my previous life. In my last life, I only lived for 3 months. This time, with a fresh start, I'm determined to take control of my own fate. I switched on the air conditioning and humidifier, setting the temperature to 26 degrees Celsius. A healthier, more eco-friendly setting. Looking out the window at the leaves yellowing under the intense heat, I felt relieved that everything was in order. Turning on the telly, the news was filled with reports of various incidents caused by the heat wave. Companies were shutting down, schools were closing, and outside, only large chain supermarkets remained open, while most other shops had closed their doors. People online were starting to panic. Some were furiously cursing this bloody awful weather. Others were quitting their jobs in anger to stay at home. And some, sensing something was amiss, began stockpiling supplies. As night fell, the temperature showed no signs of dropping, even in the darkness. More and more people, erring on the side of caution, started venturing out to buy drinking water. Looking at the CCTV footage, I saw the three of them still at home, enjoying the air conditioning. They watched the news with an air of indifference, which made me chuckle coldly to myself. Sybil snuggled up to Nathan, whispering softly, "Nathan, love, it's chaos out there." Shouldn't we go out and buy some water too? No need. That old cow's always hoarding stuff. The cellar's full of everything. It's a madhouse in the supermarkets now. What if you got hurt? But I'm carrying your precious son, and I fancy something nice to eat. Nathan irritably tossed his mobile to Sybil. Money can buy anything, can't it? Just order a delivery. Sybil frowned, looking a bit miffed. The son, quick as a flash, snatched the phone and ordered a load of snacks, drinks, and toys for himself. Unfortunately, the weather outside was so brutally hot that eggs would cook through in minutes. It wasn't until after 10 p.m. that their order finally arrived. I checked the supplies they'd bought, apart from 3 pizzas. It was just a pile of childish snacks, drinks, and toys. Utterly impractical stuff, indeed. Nathan was still cursing the delivery driver, while the son, dizzy with hunger, grabbed a packet of crisps from the floor and started stuffing his face. Bloody glutton. Just as useless as your cow of a mother. I've got loads of money, you think I'd let you starve? Nathan smacked his son on the head, enraging the boy who threw the takeaway at him. The once decent meal was now strewn about, a complete mess, utterly inedible. Sybil tried to calm things down with a few gentle words. But the hatred in the boy's eyes didn't fade. In my previous life, Nathan had left all the child-rearing to me. When he was in a good mood, he'd buy the boy some treats or take him to the fun fair a few times. When he couldn't be bothered, he'd say he was too exhausted from being the sole breadwinner. And tell the boy to find me. Because I was stricter with our son, over time, the boy grew to resent me more and more. Now that I wasn't there, with the two of them constantly at odds, all sorts of conflicts were surfacing. The boy, though naughty, wasn't stupid. He quickly saw through this good dad act. Add Sybil as a catalyst and the looming shadow of apocalyptic survival, and they were in for quite a ride. The night was hazy, but the temperature showed no signs of dropping. In my previous life, I only ventured out to find supplies during the first month. After that, I stayed in the basement, cut off from the outside world. Knowing almost nothing of what was happening. Facing this unknown fate again, my heart was in turmoil. Feeling as heavy as if a stone were pressing down on it. But looking at the well-stocked house, full of life, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. At least now I had food and shelter. No matter how difficult things might get, it couldn't be as hard as my previous life. Though it was over 50 degrees Celsius outside, the air conditioning inside was blowing steadily. I rummaged through the fridge for various ingredients and prepared a lavish dinner to welcome the apocalypse. Just as I was enjoying my meal, my phone rang. Who could be calling at this hour? It was Nathan. I checked the security camera and saw them standing in the basement. Furious to find nothing but junk, without a single bag of groceries. Where's all the food gone? And the air conditioner's knackered, barely used, and it's broken down already. Why didn't you get someone to fix it? You witch, are you trying to kill me? Nathan cursed loudly. I bought the food, I moved it, of course I took it with me. Have you cared about anything in this house for years? The air conditioner was secondhand to begin with, working on and off. I told you to replace it ages ago, did you listen? Deal with it yourself. Crystal Fairchild. You greedy witch, taking advantage of such petty things. No wonder you can't make any money. Oh yes, yes, yes. I'm poor and proud of it. You're rich, so go buy new stuff. He wanted to keep cursing at me. But I was no longer the woman from my past life who would silently take his abuse. I hung up the phone. Checking the security feed, I saw Nathan try to call a few more times. But I had already turned off my phone. Unable to reach me, he stormed back into the basement to look for food, ending up in a fit of impotent rage. With no choice but to return upstairs, he turned his anger on Sybil. There's not a scrap of food in the house. The aircon's useless. And the boy's wasting what little we have. I left you in charge of this home, how could you mess up such simple tasks? Sybil stood frozen, stunned by his shouting. Not so fond of your dream girl now, are you? This is the woman you've been pining for. For God's sake. If there's nothing, just buy some more. The son, playing with a toy car in the living room, looked at Nathan impatiently. Nathan didn't spare him a kind look either. It's so bloody hot outside, no delivery drivers are taking orders. You make it sound so easy, why don't you go yourself? The boy nonchalantly pulled out a bag of crisps. If there's no proper food, we've still got snacks. If you're hungry, just get Mum to bring something. Nathan's face reddened with anger at his son's words. Sybil seized this opportunity, whispering something to Nathan repeatedly. Watching the three of them on screen, each with their own hidden agendas. I enjoyed my meal even more. On the second day of the heatwave, the temperature soared to nearly 60 degrees Celsius. Just as it had in the previous life. Most of the leaves in the garden had curled up, despite my efforts to set up a makeshift shelter. It proved to be of little use against the scorching heat. Reluctantly, I harvested all the vegetables from my garden and stored them in the fridge to keep them fresh. I turned on the telly, where the news was on repeat. We urge all citizens to stay indoors. The government is prepared for heavy rainfall to combat this persistent heat wave. Please remain patient. Uncertain about what the future held, I tried to search for information online. I found that people were increasingly irritable, worn down by the oppressive heat. Many were crying out for help. Help! Can anyone spare some food? I didn't stock up and I've run out. The water pipes have melted. I've been waiting for repairs for 2 days, but no one dares to come out. I'll pay £1,000 if someone can bring me a couple of bottles of water. Folks, my aircon's packed in. It's like a sauna in here. Can anyone come to my rescue? I closed my phone and shut my eyes. I didn't have the capacity to protect everyone. I could only ensure my own safety and, if possible, look after those closest to me. With this in mind, I sent my drone out for a quick survey. Every household in the village seemed to have several months' worth of food and water stored. For now, things appeared manageable. As the drone flew by, I saw some of the neighbors waving at it. This small gesture provided a glimmer of comfort. On the 6th day of this apocalyptic heat wave, the power went out. The temperature remained stubbornly high, refusing to drop below 60 degrees Celsius. In this intense heat, many forests had spontaneously combusted. Wildfires were spreading everywhere, and numerous villages near the woods had been reduced to ashes overnight. Thousands had already perished. Some from the heat, others from heat stroke and dehydration. Various government departments issued a joint statement, urging everyone to stay home and take measures to keep cool. They promised airdrops of supplies every 3 days. I accessed the CCTV feed from my ex-husband's house. The three of them looked gaunt and famished. Nathan was stark naked, lying in the bathtub with Sybil, trying to cool off. The boy was pushed to the floor, leaning against the tub to catch what little coolness he could. When it became unbearable, he'd dunk his head in the water. But with the indoor temperature at 60 degrees Celsius, the bathwater quickly became tepid. The boy rolled about on the floor in discomfort. But Nathan and Sybil were too preoccupied with their own misery to pay him any attention. Sybil brought up the issue of supplies. Darling, we're running low on water and food. No one's accepting deliveries. Could you go out and collect some of the airdrop supplies? In this bloody heat? Are you trying to kill me? Here's some money, you go get it. Seeing them bicker, the boy wailed that if Sybil didn't go, he'd disown her as his mother. Sybil was having none of it. She cozied up to Nathan, whining, I'm carrying your child and I'm so delicate. I'd faint if I went out in this heat. But he's young, energetic, and sturdy. He could run out there quickly. Realizing the situation, the boy quickly retreated to his room. Nathan cursed a bit before pulling out his phone and tapping away. I saw a message pop up in the neighborhood group chat. Flat 601 looking to buy water and any food. Name your price. There's an old saying about not flashing your wealth. Nathan's brain seemed to have melted in the heat, practically inviting robbery. The heat wave showed no signs of abating. At this moment, Nathan managed to secure some supplies in the neighborhood. I knew the person providing the supplies. It was Rick Hayward, the notorious thug in our area. Unfortunately, the £2,000 Nathan offered was far from enough to satisfy Rick's greed. What? Only $2,000? Do you think I'm a beggar? Give me 20 grand, and I'll give you the water. 20,000 for a few bottles of water and some stale bread? Have you gone mad? Before Nathan could finish, he was knocked to the ground by a punch from the man opposite. After being hit, Nathan cried out in terror, threatening to call the police. Rick just grinned and slapped him again. Haha, in this heat, the police won't get here in time to save you. Either pay up, or I'll kill your whole family and eat them for meat. Nathan didn't dare to challenge the towering Rick. Trembling, he took out his phone and transferred 20,000 pounds. As he was leaving, Rick leered at Sybil. Oh my, aren't you a pretty thing? It's a waste for you to be with this sort. If you get hungry, come to flat 301. I will make sure you're well fed. As soon as Rick left, Nathan turned on Sybil in a rage. You slut! Flirting with every man you see, trying to make a cuckold out of me? I always said you were a loose woman. If I catch you making eyes at another man again, you won't see a penny from me. Sybil fell to her knees, begging, before Nathan finally stopped hitting her. Looking back, they saw the boy had already started gorging himself on the water and bread. Crumbs were scattered all over the floor, he hadn't left anything for the others. Seeing this, Nathan was furious. He locked his son in the basement, only letting him out in the evening. After this incident, the 3 members of the Brown family fell into a cold war. I happily hummed a tune as I started cooking for myself. Just as I was enjoying my meal, I heard an alarm from my home security system. Mr. Thornton, our village head, was standing at my door with a few younger men, carrying tools like hoes and axes. The malice I had felt during the apocalypse in my previous life sent a chill up my spine. Ding dong. The doorbell rang again. Crystal, it's Thornton. Open the door for me, dear. Mr. Thornton's words came through the intercom like a death knell. What I once found endearing now seemed terrifying. I grabbed a taser before running to the front gate to ask what was going on. Hearing my response, Mr. Thornton spoke urgently. With this heat wave, I'm worried the trees on the back hill might catch fire. We're taking advantage of the slight cool down today to cut a fire break. Several people are on the verge of collapse from heat stroke. Do you have any medication for that? I looked through my binoculars at the back hill and indeed, a ring of dead trees had disappeared. Only then did I relax and bring out a large package of medicine. Mr. Thornton took out a few vials and pushed the rest back into my hands. This is enough for us. The world's unstable now, you'd better keep the rest for yourself. With that, he left with the others. Watching Mr. Thornton's retreating figure, I felt a sense of melancholy. How long would this heat last, and how long could we maintain the state of mutual aid? I placed the taser I had been clutching tightly by the door and went back inside to sleep. I didn't know if my kindness in the apocalypse was right or wrong. And I felt a bit strange being so wary of everyone. But the apocalypse truly changes people beyond recognition. Another fortnight passed, and the temperature outside still hovered between 55 to 60 degrees Celsius. The air grew increasingly dry, and the situation in the village began to deteriorate. Despite Mr. Thornton's daily broadcasts to encourage everyone, some villagers succumbed to food shortages. To help my neighbors, I sent my drone out daily, laden with food, delivering to one family after another. In return, I often received potatoes, sweet potatoes, and other crops from the elderly. Mr. Thornton even wrote me a note, advising me to keep my resources hidden and to take care of myself. These gestures warmed my heart, reaffirming that returning to the village was a wise decision. At this time, news from the Brown surveillance feed provided some relief to my inner hatred. Nathan looked sallow and sickly, his face tinged with green, as if his days were numbered. Surprisingly, Sybil and the boy showed little change. Upon closer inspection of the footage, I discovered that the day after Rick arrived, she had sneaked out of the house. She returned over an hour later, disheveled, carrying a bag of small bread rolls and 2 bottles of water, only to be caught by the boy. Sybil used the bread and water to bribe the boy into keeping watch, and the 2 of them ate with relish. How could Nathan be the only one starving in the family? I carefully selected a few angles and took a series of photos of the food in front of me, then posted them on Instagram, visible only to Nathan. It wasn't long before Nathan called. As soon as I answered, I was met with a deafening roar. Crystal, where are you? How can you still drink Coca-Cola? I feigned confusion. Coca-Cola. Haven't you had any? Nathan persisted in asking where I was. But I ignored him, deliberately making loud slurping noises as I drank the Coke. Nathan fell silent on the other end. Then, his voice softened as he began to plead. Darling, I was wrong. I was bewitched by that harlot Sybil. I now realize you're the most important woman in my life. Our son and I miss you terribly. Could you bring some food and come see us? I couldn't help but laugh coldly. Now you remember how good I am? I stockpiled so much food at your house, and you want me to come and save all three of you? Go eat shit. Food? What food? Before Nathan could finish, I hung up the phone and promptly deleted the Instagram post. Let them torment each other. In my previous life, my tragic death was not without blame from all three of them. How could I let them live comfortably in this life? On the surveillance feed, Nathan, seeing that I had hung up, angrily threw his phone onto the sofa and began searching the house for food. Sure enough, he found several small bread rolls under the sofa. Nathan viciously stuffed the bread into his mouth, washing it down with a large gulp of mineral water. You two witches! You've been eating behind my back. This was left for me by my wife. He continued to eat and drink, quickly finishing the small bread rolls. Sybil emerged from the bedroom and saw this, her voice trembling. What do you mean, your wife? I earned that. Leave some for me. Nathan stared at Sybil intently. You earned it? How? Wait, did you go and seduce other men? Sybil's eyes darted around. I didn't mean to. There was no food in the house, and I was dizzy with hunger. Your son kept saying he was hungry, so I just. The son cried out, it wasn't me. It was this wretched woman who went of her own accord. If you hadn't encouraged me, how could I not have shared with Nathan? Nathan is the father of my future child. The son tried to explain further, but was silenced by a slap from Nathan that knocked him unconscious. I don't care which of you came up with the idea. He glared at Sybil menacingly. You're my woman, carrying my child. You should have me in your heart. Once this apocalypse is over, we can live a good life together. Don't you agree? Sybil nodded tremblingly, helping Nathan lift the boy and throw him into the basement. From that day on, Sybil frequently went to the third floor alone, always returning with a bit of food. Nathan, now having food, couldn't be bothered to touch Sybil, only concerned with eating the lion's share himself, tossing scraps and leftovers for Sybil to fill her stomach. His mental state deteriorated. One day he would be beating Sybil, and the next he'd be on his knees, promising to give her all the good things 'cause he had money, begging her to endure a little longer. Sybil's belly grew larger, but she rapidly lost weight. In the surveillance footage, she huddled in a corner, gnawing on bread while staring venomously at Nathan. It seemed their days of fighting like cats and dogs were approaching. It had been 2 months since the heatwave ended, and the Brown family was in trouble. Sybil finished a dry, stale piece of bread and reached out for water, only to be slapped hard by Nathan. You filthy whore! We've only got this much water, and you want to drink more? Sybil's hair was disheveled as she angrily threw whatever was within reach at Nathan. You bastard! I earned this water. I can drink as much as I want. Earned? You're proud of selling your body? Nathan gulped down a bottle of water. Sybil lunged at him to grab it, but only managed to lick a few drops from the bottom. She broke down completely. You useless jerk! The water I worked so hard to get. You didn't even leave me a sip. You only care about yourself. Have you thought about me and the baby? You keep saying you have money, but what good is it now? Nathan's eyes were glazed over as he muttered. I've got money. With money, I can buy anything. What's wrong with drinking your water? Sybil clawed at Nathan's face, her expression a mix of tears and rage. What's wrong? This is the water I traded for. Spit it out and give it back to me now. Nathan panicked and pinned Sybil down, his hands around her throat. You dirty whore, I'm doing you a favor by not minding your filthy water. The little you bring back each day isn't even enough to wet my whistle. It's all your fault. If my wife were here, this would never happen. Sybil could barely breathe. She mustered all her strength to kick Nathan in the groin. The pain made him shudder and loosen his grip on Sybil. She dashed to the kitchen and grabbed the cleaver from the counter, striking Nathan hard. "Your wife. As if someone like her would look twice at a fool like you. I'll tell you the truth, this baby isn't even yours. If it weren't for your money, who'd want to be with you? I'm going to Rick's place now. Don't you dare bother me." Sybil shouted as she backed towards the door, her hands shaking as she held the cleaver. As she turned, Nathan lunged forward and wrested the cleaver from her. He raised it high and plunged it into Sybil's neck. Sybil's eyes widened in disbelief as she collapsed. Nathan went berserk, stabbing her repeatedly until she lay motionless. Only then did he snap out of his frenzy and drop the cleaver. He sat dazed on the floor for a while before dragging his semi-conscious son from the basement. The boy woke up groggily, but before he could scream, Nathan pressed his face against Sybil's wounds. Nathan laughed maniacally. "That's my boy, drink up. There's water in the blood. She weighs over 150 pounds, enough for both of us to drink." The son was reluctant at first, but he was so dehydrated that he swallowed hard at the sight of blood. The sound of gulping echoed through the living room. I watched, feeling nauseated yet immensely satisfied. My revenge was finally bearing fruit. These two bloodthirsty monsters wouldn't escape either. Mr. Thornton, the village head, led a group of young lads to dig the soil. He then called me to borrow a small bag of potato seedlings, which I attached to a drone. Just as the drone took off, my mobile rang. It was Nathan. "Darling, our son says he misses his mom," Nathan said, while our boy wailed for me in the background. In the past, I would have been heartbroken, wanting to shower our son with everything good. But not anymore. I reckon Sybil's body is almost gone. The day of reckoning has finally come. I hung up and quickly went inside to make a video call. The call connected instantly. Somehow, Nathan and our son had managed to clean themselves up. Our boy looked at me with tear-stained cheeks. "Mom, you're finally talking to us. Dad and I are starving to death." I couldn't care less about my son's attempt to look pitiful. I turned the camera around, showing the air conditioner blowing cool air at 26 degrees Celsius, and the coffee table laden with fresh fruits. Feeling this wasn't impactful enough, I took an ice lolly from the fridge and started devouring it in front of them. Nathan and our son's eyes nearly popped out. "Honey, how come you still have ice lollies to eat?" I sneered. "I've always liked to stock up. What's it to you what I have in my house?" Nathan's eyes lit up, and he nudged our son. The boy continued his fake crying and apologized. "Mom, please come and pick us up. I promise I'll never say bad things about you again." I casually tossed the ice lolly stick and grabbed a bottle of Coke. "Didn't you say Sybil Wilson was your real mom? Why should I rescue you?" "Because you've got the cheek to ask?" Our son was stunned, and so was Nathan. The next second, Nathan punched our son in the face. "It's all your fault, you ungrateful brat. You ran off with the first person who sweet-talked you. I'd rather have raised a dog than you." Our son, pampered since birth, couldn't take this. He lunged at Nathan, punching and kicking. "You told me to accept Sybil as my mom. It's your fault I don't have ice lollies to eat. Keep talking rubbish, and I'll eat you too." Nathan grabbed our son and forced him to apologize to me. "Darling, I truly know I was wrong. It was my fault for being so foolish, letting Sybil and this heartless kid trick me. The baby in Sybil's belly isn't even mine, I've kicked her out already. You're the one I love most. If you come to pick us up, I promise I'll be good to you from now on." Our son's little face was all scrunched up as he tried to act cute for the camera. "Mummy, I know I was wrong. You're the best mom in the whole world. Please come and save your baby." I let out an impatient sneer. "Why should I bother saving you too? With that attitude, you think I'd rescue you? Get on your knees and slap yourselves. Keep going until I'm satisfied." Nathan gave me a venomous look, then gritted his teeth and slapped himself hard, leaving a red mark on his face. Our son, not to be outdone, started slapping himself rapidly. I watched for a while, then got bored. "Stop it. Two bruised faces looked up at me hopefully. I'm not satisfied yet. I suggest you both die before coming to find me. They instantly flew into a rage. Nathan leaned in close to the camera, his face twisted with malice. You witch, how dare you trick me? Just wait till I get my hands on you, I'll eat you alive. Our son shouted from the side. You don't deserve to have me look after you when you're old. I'd rather wait for your funeral than wait for you to care for me in my old age. I said, taking a swig of my ice-cold Coke and letting out a loud burp. By the way, it's not hard to catch me. I'm at my hometown, just a 3 or 4 hour drive away. I didn't bother listening to their curses any longer and ended the call. With the heatwave outside, I'd like to see if they have the guts to come. I waited at home for a month, but Nathan and our son never came. Instead, I received an airdrop of heat-resistant fast-growing crops from the National Agriculture Research Center. The day I planted the seeds in flower pots, my son called, crying and begging me to save him, saying his dad was going to eat him. My heart ached. After all, he was my own flesh and blood. But remembering how cold he was in my previous life, I shook my head and ignored him. A week later, the electricity started to intermittently recover. I logged into the surveillance equipment and found no signs of life at home. Scrolling back, I saw Nathan eating meat in the basement for a few days, depleting all reserves again. Then, he staggered out of the house and never returned. I opened a bottle of red wine for myself, celebrating my revenge and complete rebirth. On the day the crops were harvested, the temperature began to slowly drop, finally reaching normal levels. The government immediately dispatched troops to repair power lines and distribute supplies in large quantities. Our village, due to our unity and mutual assistance, had no casualties. Under the leadership of Mr. Thornton, we began to aid neighboring villages and towns. Although we didn't know if this disaster was truly over. Just like every time before, we would stand united and see the light at the end of the tunnel. The new year arrived, the heatwave finally ended, and social order slowly returned to normal. I immediately drove back to what was once our home. Opening the door, I found 2 tooth-marked, foul-smelling skeletons lying in the living room. I called the police and submitted 2 surveillance video clips. They were the footage of Nathan killing Sybil and our son. It would be best if Nathan was dead, if not, he must face legal consequences. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. 3 days later, the police found Nathan's sun-dried corpse by the roadside leading to our house. I took the death certificate to the court to withdraw the divorce application. I legally inherited the remaining £38 million in Nathan's account. After dealing with these matters, I drove back to the village. On Mr. Thornton's suggestion, I partnered with the village committee to set up a new crop greenhouse, providing jobs for young people who had left to work elsewhere. Amidst cheers full of hope, I walked towards my bright new future.